I scream, you scream, we all need to stop screaming because this is about frozen custard, not ice cream. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Marta and I am the chef and author of Sense and Edibility, a site where I teach you everything I know about cooking, baking, and cocktail making. And today I'm teaching you what I know about a vanilla frozen custard. But before we get into the video, I would really love it if you would subscribe to my channel and sign up for notifications so that every time I post a new video, you can get notified and put her on over here to YouTube and check it out. Why do you want to make frozen custard instead of ice cream? Well, the question I have for you is why not? If you prefer a very full-bodied, rich type of dessert, frozen custard is probably going to be your new favorite. The biggest difference between a frozen custard and ice cream is that one is richer, one is creamier, one is more full-bodied than the other, and that being frozen custard versus ice cream. So let's get into the video so you can see how I make it, and I will answer some frequently asked questions towards the end of the video, so stay tuned for those. But for now, let's get into the video. Before I talk about vanilla beans, I want to show you a product that you can use in place of a whole vanilla bean, which is vanilla bean paste. Now, usually you want to stir this up really well, but it's essentially just a gel of extracted vanilla beans, and you can find this in the baking aisle. But I strongly recommend using a whole vanilla bean. I buy vanilla beans in bulk and then I make vanilla extract with them, but I also reserve whole beans for baking throughout the year or 2 years or however long it takes me to use up these vanilla beans. Now, if you store yours in alcohol, you're gonna have to wipe them down, or if you get them from the store, they're already dry, which means you don't have to dry them. You wanna use a very sharp paring knife to cut off the dried, hard, woody ends, and take the tip of the paring knife and run it down the length of the vanilla bean. Once you do that, you'll be able to see the beans that are inside, the pulp that's inside. Now, what I like to do is I like to scrape it from one end towards the middle and then deposit what I've collected on the knife tip back into the vanilla bean husk. And then I want to do it the same thing on the opposite side of the vanilla bean, pushing it to the middle. And this is what we're going to be adding to our milks mixture. So grab a pot. I like to use one that has sloped sides, no corners, because we're making a custard and we don't want that to get caught into corners. You're going to add whole milk and heavy cream, or it's also called whipping cream, to the pot along with the vanilla bean and some kosher salt. And you're going to put this on the stove and bring it up to a gentle simmer over medium or medium-low heat. You don't want to heat this too fast. So while you're waiting for the milks to come up to temperature, you want to take some egg yolks and granulated sugar and add them to a mixing bowl and use a balloon whisk to whisk these two together. The goal here is to dissolve that granulated sugar as much as possible, but also to add volume to the egg yolks. Look for the mixture to leave ribbons behind on the surface when you lift the whisk from it, just like that. Now put this right next to your pot that's on the stove, because what we're going to do is temper these egg yolks. We can't add these egg yolks directly to hot liquid or they're going to curdle and they're going to scramble and it's going to be a hot mess. So instead, we're going to take a portion of that hot milk, about 3/4 cup, and stream it slowly in a slow trickle into those egg yolks while whisking continuously. You want to whisk constantly in order to prevent the egg yolks from curdling. At this point, you can never add too much hot milk to your eggs to temper them, but you can add too little. So when in doubt, add more hot milk. Now what you're going to do is trickle the egg yolk mixture back into the hot milk on the pot. You're going to continuously whisk as you add it. So again, it doesn't curdle, it doesn't, clump up and scramble on you. Be sure to scrape the bottom of the bowl because vanilla beans like to settle at the bottom of the bowl. So you want to make sure you're getting all that into the pot. Now you're going to turn the heat up to medium low By the way, I always turn my stove off when I'm tempering, because the reduced amount of liquid in the pot will start to boil too fast, and I don't want to scald my milk. So that's why I turned it off. But I turn it back up to medium-low heat. Now, when you first add the egg yolks to the milk mixture in the pot, the surface is going to be very foamy because you have incorporated air into the egg yolks. You want to whisk this mixture for every 15 seconds or continuously so that it doesn't scramble. But the goal is to gradually heat the egg yolks so that they coagulate in a good way and thicken the milk mixture. So we're cooking these egg yolks. It makes it safe to consume later on, but it also thickens the custard, which you can see as my whisk is leaving ribbons in the surface of the custard. So at this point, we are done heating the custard, but this is how you check to make sure that your custard is sufficiently thickened. You're going to take a rubber spatula, probably the one that you were using to clean the sides of the pot with. You're going to gather up some of the custard and run your finger or the back of a spoon down the rubber spatula. When it holds an edge, then it's thick enough. We don't want this super thick. We don't want it the consistency of pudding, because then it's not going to churn properly and the outcome is not going to be what we want. This is properly thickened. We're going to remove it from the stove, and I'm going to pour it into a clean mixing bowl, beans and all. I'm going to now add some vanilla extract. When you add vanilla extract after cooking, it just amplifies that vanilla flavor. There's still enough residual heat to kind of cook off that alcohol, so it's not going to have that alcohol taste. But this is just, again, showing you the texture of the custard. It's not super thick, but as it chills, it's going to thicken considerably. So now all I'm doing is I'm putting it in an ice bath to chill it really fast. And after it's come to at least room temperature, I'm going to cover the bowl and refrigerate it for at least 4 hours. Now, after 4 hours, your custard is going to be cool and chilled, and it's going to be quite thick. Take the vanilla bean and just use your rubber spatula to kind of scrape off the rest of the beans. And then you're going to pour this into an ice cream maker that's running. You want it to be circulating and moving before you add your custard. Now you're going to churn this ice cream anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes. Some ice cream makers can take up to 20. But this is the consistency you want. You want it to be almost soft serve, just shy of soft serve. And it's okay if it goes a little bit over. You can see some of it was churned more than the rest of it, but that's okay because it still needs to go through the process of freezing. So we're going to grab a quart-sized container and transfer the ice cream from the ice cream machine into the ice cream containers. Now, I recommend using a firm metal spoon or spatula. Rubber spatulas, as you can see, don't scrape off the hardened ice cream on the sides of the bowl. Level out the ice cream in the ice cream container, and then you're going to put a lid on it. And I usually flip mine upside down. It kind of pushes the ice cream down so there's no freezer burn or pooling of the custard. Now, I serve it by dipping my ice cream scoop in some tepid water, scooping it up, and plopping it in a bowl like so. And of course, you can serve this any way you want to, on its own, a la mode, with sprinkles, with syrup, whatever you want. But just enjoy it. Look at that. It's creamy without being heavy. The vanilla flavor is popping through. I love the flecks of vanilla that I see in the frozen custard. It just makes me happy. Yeah, some good frozen custard. I'm gonna put this away because I'm not one of those people that makes recipes for content and throws the food away. Like, I eat this. So I'm gonna put this away, and I will be back to answer some frequently asked questions that I get about this vanilla frozen custard recipe. So I'll be right back. Ice cream is made with a combination of milks and sugars and flavorings. Frozen custard incorporates eggs in some way, shape, or form. In my recipe, you see that I use egg yolks to make a custard, which is then cooled and then churned. Ice cream takes the milks, the sugar, the flavorings, it chills it or just goes into the churner and it churns, and that's what you get when you get ice cream. But that is the biggest difference between ice cream and frozen custard, is that one is made with a custard base, the other is not. Whatever you do, do not skip tempering your eggs. Tempering your eggs allows the eggs to come to a temperature that allows them to be incorporated into the hot dairy, the milk and the cream mixture, without curdling and turning into scrambled eggs. I've never tasted sweetened scrambled eggs. I don't think that that would be appealing, so that's why I temper my eggs. If you just go straight from whisking the eggs or beating the eggs in the sugar mixture, dump that into the hot milk, it's going to scramble because it's so thick, right? If you temper it with some of the hot liquid, it allows it to start acclimating, but it also loosens up the egg so that it's pourable, so that you can be whisking and pouring at the same time, so that you can temper it even further as it goes into the pot. Do yourself a favor, temper your eggs so you don't waste ingredients and money. Now, what happens if you decide not to listen to me and your eggs end up curdling? This can happen for a number of reasons. Most of the time, the eggs in the custard will curdle because you're not stirring it frequently enough, because you didn't temper it properly, you didn't temper it enough, which means you just kind of added just a little of that hot liquid instead of a good amount of the hot liquid. It could also be that your temperature is too hot or too high. And I think those are the main reasons why your mixture will curdle. Now, if you find that your mixture is not curdled in the sense that there's tiny solids flecking the custard, but instead it's like scrambled, you have scrambled eggs, you can overcome that by straining the custard before you cool it. If you have to do that, if you have to strain it because there's large clumps of egg, what you should do is remove the vanilla bean, put it into a new bowl, and then strain the custard through a fine mesh sieve into that bowl with the vanilla bean, and then refrigerate it. Another way you can combat, bring back, revive a curdled custard is add another egg. So you're going to have to whisk a whole egg instead of just an egg yolk. Whisk a whole egg, add some of that custard, that warm custard, hot custard to it, whisk it in, temper it, and then add it, and then that usually brings it together because you're adding more fat. Usually when something curdles, the fat is separating from the liquid in the mixture, so you want to add more fat via another egg. If it's curdled beyond recognition, like if you got a whole bunch, if it looks like you're making cheese, go ahead and scrap it, start again, work at a lower temperature, stir it, whisk it frequently, get those sides of the pot, and don't rush that process. One of the most asked questions I get is, do I really have to age it overnight? You don't have to do nothing but pay taxes and be a good citizen. But when you taste an aged frozen custard versus one that has not been aged, you will see the difference. Aging allows the proteins in the custard time to absorb or be hydrated by the moisture or the water in the custard, resulting in a fuller mouthfeel. Italian ice versus ice cream, right? So Italian ice feels lighter on the palate, or sorbet feels lighter on the palate, whereas ice cream feels creamier, with more body and more volume on the palate. Frozen custard that's aged takes that up another level to give you a really full, like my mouth is watering, a creamier, richer experience when you're eating it. Technically, you can churn the frozen custard 4 hours after it's chilled, right? You want to chill it for at least 4 hours so that it's nice and cold. but you're not going to have that same mouthfeel because the proteins in the custard haven't had a chance to plump up. But it can be done. You can skip the aging process, but I would recommend trying it aged at least once because it's lovely. The reason why it's important to chill your frozen custard for at least 4 hours is because you want it to be completely as cold as it can get before it goes into your ice cream machine. If you were to churn warm custard, the likelihood of you developing ice crystals which end up watering down the flavor of your frozen custard, but also make your frozen custard extremely hard, is higher. The colder this frozen custard is, the less time it takes to churn to the proper consistency. Get it? Right? So that's why it's important to chill your ice cream until it is cold, very cold, like ice cold. It just makes the churning process go faster, makes your ice cream fluffier, makes scooping it easier, and it just produces a better product. This is not a recipe that I want you to make lactose free. I will do my best, my very best, to create a lactose free frozen custard, but no, I'm sorry, this is not one of those that you can transform into a lactose free custard. But while you can't make it lactose free, you can reduce the calories in this recipe by replacing the heavy cream with whole milk. It'll just be less calories, right? Because it's not great. If you have an ice cream machine that has an ice cream setting, usually you can set it on that ice cream setting, but watch it because I found that the longer I chill or age my frozen custard and the thicker it is before I chill it, the faster it churns to that soft serve consistency. So just be mindful of that. You can use the ice cream setting, but keep an eye on it so that when it starts to look like that soft serve ice cream that comes out of the machines at like those, diners or whatever, that's when you want to pull it because you want it to be nice and soft. It can go a little bit further past that soft serve consistency, but if you do that, it's going to be over churned and it's going to be harder to scoop after it's frozen solid. And of course, I'm going to link to the ice cream machine that I use in the description box underneath the video, so that if you don't have an ice cream machine, this is the one that I use all the time and the one that I recommend. You can't just you can take the ice cream from the ice cream machine and serve it, but it is going to go to soup extremely fast. I think within 5 minutes, it's going to start melting, if not have melted completely. So you need to give it time to set up. This is not a quick fix recipe, not if you want to do it right. So you're going to have to dedicate some time to churning and chilling and freezing. Here's the reality. I'm going to keep it real with you. It is less effort to go and buy a quart of ice cream or a pint of ice cream. Yes, it's less effort. The results of this frozen custard, for me, are worth it. This is one of those special occasion type of things, or if you want to start experimenting with making your own flavors. But this is something that I recommend you try, especially if you're an ice cream lover, because it is the fundamental flavor of frozen custard, vanilla. If you don't have a vanilla bean and you don't want to pay an arm and a leg to get one, you can replace the whole vanilla bean in this recipe with 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla bean paste. And they usually sell it in little jars in the baking aisle next to the vanilla. So yeah, 1.5 teaspoons, which is like 8 grams of vanilla bean paste. Don't worry about simmering that with the heavy cream and the whole milk. You just add that at the end with the vanilla extract, because I still want you to add that vanilla extract. I know this sounds crazy, but you can use too much vanilla in a recipe. When you use too much vanilla in a recipe, it starts to taste tarry almost. It tastes like tar smells, which is it's not a pleasant experience. So you want to use vanilla bean paste with restraint, but you can bolster that vanilla flavor with the vanilla extract. Don't add more, but add the same amount of vanilla extract to the vanilla bean paste, and that's how you can substitute a whole vanilla bean in this recipe. If you want to add mix-ins or add-ins to this vanilla frozen custard, like chocolate chips or nuts or coconut flakes, fresh fruit. If you want to do that, I recommend waiting until the very last minute, literally last 60 seconds of churning the ice cream, and sprinkle it in. You know how mine had that little plug that you can remove from the lid? Sprinkle it in as it's churning and then stop and remove it. I usually recommend using shavings, chocolate shavings instead of chocolate chips, because chocolate chips can get caught in the ice cream blade, the blade that goes around, and damage it. If you want to skip the chance of damaging your blade, you can always fold in the chocolate chips. And I also recommend using mini chocolate chips. They sell those right next to the regular chocolate chips, because there's something about biting into a big chunk of chocolate that is just not, it's not appetizing. It's kind of irritating actually. So use the mini chocolate chips if you have them. You can fold them in by hand or add them at the last minute while the blade is still spinning. But don't add it to begin with, because then you're just making the ice cream machine have to work longer. You're making it have to churn longer because you're adding other things that may be of different temperatures, and we're warming up the custard instead of keeping it ice cold, which again is what we want to avoid ice crystals forming as we churn it. This recipe makes 1 1/4 quarts of vanilla frozen custard. That means that you're not going to get a full second quart out of this recipe, but since you are the maker of said recipe, you can just swipe a little bit, that leftover 1/4 quart, you can just go ahead and enjoy that as payment. So I am linking to the ice cream containers that I use. They are reusable, they freeze well, they're easy to clean. It's just like, I love these ice cream containers because they just make life easy for me. When you are thinking about containers to store your frozen custard in, things I don't recommend are glass containers, because if they are not truly tempered glass and decide they want to crack on you or chip, you're not going to be able to see ice or glass in your frozen custard, and the likelihood of you swallowing a piece of glass is very high. You want to avoid that. Metal, I'm not too much of a fan of when it comes to storing my frozen custard, because metal gets extremely cold in the freezer on the sides. So your frozen custard that is touching the metal parts gets colder than the rest of it, and it can easily deteriorate because it just gets freezer, because it's cold metal. I recommend using BPA-free plastic containers to store my ice cream in. It's just so much easier. You don't have to worry about it cracking, breaking, getting too cold, temperatures fluctuating. You don't have to worry about any of that. You can store frozen custard for up to 3 months. I recommend no more than 2 months, because then the quality just starts to diminish, especially if you've been pulling it in and out of the freezer. It's been subjected to temperature fluctuations. So 2 months tops, but you're gonna enjoy it way faster than that. A lot of people complain that their frozen custard, their vanilla frozen custard, melts very fast. That's supposed to happen because we didn't use any stabilizers, we didn't use any preservatives or additives. This is all natural frozen custard. The ice cream that you get from the freezer section in your grocery store, if you look at the ingredients label, it usually has some type of stabilizer to allow it to hold up to shipping and transferring into the freezer case and going into your cart and driving home with you from the grocery store and you waiting around to put it in the freezer. Stabilizers help your ice cream stay hard through all of that shipping and journeying. Whereas we're making this from scratch, we're making it at home. There's no need for us to add additives or stabilizers. And as a result, our frozen custard is going to do what it naturally does, which is melt. So I recommend getting everything set up to scoop and serve your frozen custard, scooping and serving it, popping the lid back on, flipping it upside down, and putting it back in the freezer. If you want more, go back and get more, Now, when you go into ice cream shops, you probably see that little well of water in between the ice cream case. So what that does is it's just like a a never-ending cycle of water. It's a fountain, a water fountain. They dip their dippers or scoopers into that water to clean it off mainly, and to also provide a small bit of lubrication to the ice cream scoop when they're trying to scoop that ice cream. I recommend you do the same thing. You want to use warm or tepid water. Don't use too hot water because then it'll make the metal hot and it'll melt your ice cream. You want to dip it in that warm water, shake it off, and then scoop your ice cream, plop it onto your thing. You could probably get 2 scoops before you have to dip it again, before you should dip it again. And yeah, that's just what we used to do in the ice cream store. I believe I have answered every question that I ever get about this frozen custard, but I'm pretty sure you smart folks can come up with more questions that I'm happy to answer in the comments below. If you have never made or even tasted frozen custard, I would like to know if you're going to try this recipe. And if you tried this recipe, I would like to know how you loved it. And if you love it, leave me a comment here, but also take some time to put a comment on the blog post on my website, senseandedibility.com. It's how I make money to be able to bring you these lovely films that I work so hard on. And I would love for you to support me in that way. Also, don't forget to sign up for notifications by subscribing to my channel and clicking the notification box. Enjoy your summer, what's left of it, and enjoy this vanilla frozen custard recipe that I love so much and is so dear to my heart. Don't forget to share this recipe with people who may want to become ice cream makers or frozen custard makers. And I will see you on the next video. Stay tuned for outtakes because I got a few of them because I've been having a time. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye! I would love to know if any other MS warriors have dealt with this. I can't feel this, right? So my skin is numb to the touch. Like I can feel pressure, but I can't feel sensations. But at the same time, my whole arm feels really tingly and it's so crazy. And then I get this like really bad itching, but if I scratch my skin, it doesn't even seem like I'm scratching it. It's so strange. So it's been crazy, but this is wild. And I would really love to know if other MS warriors deal with this and you know what you can do to kind of make life a little bit easier for yourself with it. It's kind of hanging on in there, but it's giving me some trouble. Just a little. Hi and welcome back. I don't dislike. Do not dislike. I don't dislike. I'm not. Look a few more white drop little window. Of vanilla frozen custards. 1 custard, not 2 custards. The reason why I know a lot of people complain